IBC Bank takes pride in organizing events that bring together our community leadership. Outings such as Empresarios and RGV Women with Purpose provide a vital opportunity for business owners and community leaders to unite. Together, we explore and educate the public and business community on events and changes that affect our economy. United we stand, and IBC Bank stands with you to help ensure the continued growth and prosperity of our local communities.
Hi, and thank you for joining us today on the Monitor's YouTube channel. I'm Naxieli Lopez Puente. Today we are hosting the first of 4 McAllen School District debates. Our sponsor is IBC Bank, and with me today are Place 4 candidates Gina Karam-Millin, and Tony Forina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Naxi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
We will be doing 1-minute opening remarks, and then afterward we'll be doing 2-minute questions followed by a 30-second rebuttal. So without further ado, we'll start with Gina. You have 1 minute to introduce yourself to us.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to introduce ourselves and to talk about our candidacy. I was born and raised here in McAllen, went all through McAllen ISD schools, graduated from Mac High, studied education at UT, and became a classroom teacher. I decided to go to law school after a few years, and I graduated in '99 and came to McAllen as soon as I could to raise my family. I've been practicing law in our community for 20 years, but 10 of the last 20 years I've worked part-time, and the other half of my day I've dedicated to our schools and to our district. And I'm running because I want to serve on a broader level to reach more children and to bring my backgrounds together in education and advocacy to make sure that McAllen ISD is the #1 choice for McAllen families and McAllen children. I've grown concerned in the last 3 years about declining enrollment, and we can talk more about that today.
For sure. All right, thank you so much. Tony, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Naxi, and thanks to our friends at IBC Bank and here at the Monitor and AIM Digital Media for this opportunity. I'm your sitting Place 4 trustee, and over the last 4 years, actually, it's been a tremendous opportunity to serve the city of McAllen. I grew up in a neighboring city, the big city of Alamo, and made my way to McAllen 22 years ago when I too started my family. And I've got 4 kids that have all been a product of the McAllen ISD system. My wife is a Mac High graduate from 1990. I've got my son Antonio, which by the way today is his birthday, so happy birthday, Antonio. He's a Roe graduate. I've got my daughter Maria Elena. She is a Roe graduate as well, both attending UT-RGV. I've got a senior at Achieve Early College High School, Alicia, and my youngest son Beto is a freshman at Nicky Rowe. And when I ran 4 years ago, it was because there was this insecurity about where the district was heading. And that's what spurred me to run. And fortunately, I've been able to serve the residents of McAllen. I've been able to serve the students and the teachers and of course, the children here at McAllen ISD for the last 4 years.
Okay, perfect. We're going to begin with our questions. Since we started with the opening remarks with Gina, we'll start questions with Tony.
All right.
All right. So if there's one thing that the Texas legislature can agree on, is that teachers deserve better pay.
Correct.
And so currently the House and the Senate are trying to figure out what's the best approach. Should teachers receive an across-the-board $5,000 increase, or should they receive a little bit less, around $1,800, and give the district the power and the flexibility to administer and distribute the rest of those funds?
Naxi, that's an excellent question, and obviously with the debate around House Bill 3 and the Senate response to it, we're still waiting to find things out. Yes, there is the proposed $5,000, but from what I understand, my friends that are there in the House of Representatives, we may balance out around $2,500 or a little bit less. Do I feel that every teacher deserves it? Yes, every teacher, every librarian, every diagnostician, every member of the school district payroll deserves to get it. But what it's doing is unfortunately placing us in a situation where maybe we can't afford it. Of course, the state is going to do this one time, but how are we supposed to maintain and manage that throughout the coming years? And what it's setting up for is a perfect situation like they had in 2008, where there was a lot of layoffs and it was a reduction in force because the school district simply couldn't afford it. So there is a lot of work to be done. If the state comes down and says, this is how much we're going to give, then I think as we as a school board should make that allotment for the teachers. But again, we need to look at it, analyze, and make sure that we're able to afford it down the road.
Gina, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Okay, I, of course, am in favor of teacher raises. I would prefer the $5,000 amount. I remember what it was like to buy supplies for my classroom and how difficult it is to live on a teacher's salary. But I am concerned about being able to maintain that amount. So I hope they can come up with a solution that they can maintain every year from here on out.
Okay. The next question is for you. So this is kind of on the same wavelength. Should all support staff be included in an across-the-board pay raise, and should it be equal to the raise that educators obtain?
I do think it should be across the board. Every person that works in our school provides a valuable function for educating our children. I do like the idea that the House has put forth where they put a set amount as a base salary increase, and then they're proposing that the district decides how much more each position would be able to earn. I think that teachers that have master's degrees in the fields that they're teaching should be rewarded for that extra education and expertise they bring to the district. I've never felt like that was enough of a motivation for teachers to continue their own education. So in that particular case, I think it would be more beneficial for the district to be able to decide whether some positions should have a higher salary than others. And I also would like the flexibility for the school district to be able to offer stipends to teach in positions that pose more challenges, to encourage more teachers to take on those challenges in our district.
Tony, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Noxie, right now what we do at the school district, as we've done the last 3 years, is we give teachers a certain percentage, and then from there we do for across the board those non-teachers, the paraprofessionals and everyone else, a smaller percentage. Everybody gets some sort of a bump, but it's not all the same, and that's how we've done it the last 3 years.
Okay, next question is for you again. McAllen Superintendent Jay Gonzalez recently wrote a letter to the governor advocating for teacher merit pay, but many local educators disagree. So where do you stand on this issue? Should teachers be paid based on how well their students perform in the classroom?
I would love to say yes, but obviously, you know, you look at the NFL. You have 32 quarterbacks. Each quarterback has a stipend in their clause that says if you execute such amount of percentage plays, such amount of positive yards, we'll give you a bonus. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We know that the NFL has that same level of expertise across the board, but not every student learns the same. Some students are going to have it more difficult to learn. Other teachers will have it easier to teach because they have a smaller classroom. They have less student interaction. So I would love to say that, yes, merit pay is something that we should look forward to, but we don't have a set equation on the bottom that we can say, this is how we're going to judge it.
Gina, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Thank you. I do not think that we should ever have merit pay based on test scores. And when the legislature was considering that, and that was a very heavy focus in the reforms that they proposed at first, they were basing it on test scores. And that just isn't fair because some students have different language barriers that make it more difficult for them to succeed. And so it just wouldn't be right to base merit pay solely on test scores the way they were proposing.
Okay. Next question is for you. Standardized testing and merit pay appear to go hand in hand, but as we've recently seen, there are issues with the current testing method. So how else can a teacher's performance be measured, and should they be measured against other educators?
I think that, well, when I was a teacher, we had 2 observations a year. And one was a scheduled observation, so you could prepare and really show yourself at your best. And then there was a second observation that was a surprise observation. And that would give the observer, who was usually an administrator in your school, an opportunity to see what you're like any other day of the school year. So I think a combination of those 2 types of observations gives an administrator a really good idea of how well the teacher is performing in the classroom. I also think that teachers are measured by the performance of their students, but it doesn't have to be compared across the district. It could be just for that one particular student and what their growth has been from one year to the next, not necessarily comparing that student's performance with their peers. So that's another way to do it. I really disagree with the whole A through F rating system that our state has implemented, because it's a snapshot in time and they're using standardized test scores to determine too much, and they don't take into effect that some students are harder to educate because they come with language barriers or poverty issues. So I don't think that we should rely so heavily on those test scores.
Tony, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Despite the fact that I really despise standardized tests because no two students are the same. Some students are prepared throughout the day at the classroom and they're ready to go. But when you give them that test, they freak out and they can't maintain their composure. And you have students that don't prepare at any time during the school day, but when you give them that standardized test, they excel. Now, is that a way to judge the teachers? No. It wasn't done like that until there was a really big financial matter that was put in front of the reps years back. And if you go back and you follow the money, you'll see that these people aren't even on the same level.
Thank you. Next question is for you again. In 2015, voters struck down a proposed $297 million bond that was meant to address overcrowding and renovations at certain campuses. How has the district been able to meet student needs without the bond money?
That's for me.
Yes.
Since 2009, boards before us have projected a 2% decrease in student enrollment. Since 2009, we're going back 10 years, seeing that 2% decrease in student enrollment. So when this issue came up in 2014, and you had all the members of the Facilities Forecast Advisory Committee that were there looking at it, I don't know if that was taken into consideration. I don't know if they were given that information that said, look, as you're going through these school rounds, you need to take advantage, remember that we've got that 2% decrease. Now, since we've done it, we've managed through creative ways to reinvest $32 million into the school district without raising a tax penny. So we've managed to cover a lot of the issues that were there, and we've done it without raising taxes, and at the same time, we've done it through our Facilities Education Master Plan, in which we had some advisors come in. They looked at all of our schools, whether it be used for a regular classroom, whether it be used for a special education classroom, whether it be used for an auditorium. And they've analyzed each space, all former superintendents and engineers, to put together this plan to say, you are using this room properly, and it is a school that is 75% filled at 100% use, or it's 50% filled at 100% use. And that's why we did the realignment, and we moved Lincoln Middle School, combined it with De Leon Middle School, so we took two schools that were half filled, running at 100%, and put them into one. And then we managed to take Achieve Early College High School and take it out of the portables that it was at STC and use it into Lincoln Middle School. So we've repurposed our campuses to the point where we're getting maximum use out of them.
Gina, 30
So I would
second
love to
rebuttal.
have more time to answer this question, but I'll just point out one thing. The $33 million that's been invested in our schools was not a creative reworking of our budget. $18 million of it came from a hailstorm settlement, and the remainder came from a disaster declaration. So it was kind of a windfall that we had that money to be able to make some renovations. I served on the Facilities Committee back in 2014. We were not given those projections because unlike what my opponent is saying, we were not declining at the rate that we're declining now. And in fact, the experts told us that if we were to redo our schools, we would be able to maintain our enrollment, and our enrollment has been in a downward spiral ever since.
All right. Next question is for you, and it sort of ties into that. If the Texas legislature goes through with its promise to lower the tax burden, should the district consider asking voters again to pass a bond?
So what the legislature is considering is compressing our property tax rates, but funding education in a different way and giving us a per student allotment that's higher than what we have now. So that will help us to be able to develop programs for our students. But the reforms that they are proposing do not have anything to do with addressing facilities needs in our district, which are great. So the biggest problem right now, like I keep mentioning, is declining enrollment. And in September, you will remember that our district asked the voters to pass a tax ratification election, which would give them an additional $7 million to do maintenance. But unlike a traditional bond, that money, there's no oversight for it. It can be spent on anything. And unfortunately, because we've lost so many students and over $13 million in funding, all of those extra pennies that are generated are basically just going to fill this giant hole that's been left by declining enrollment. Our state, unfortunately, has set us up in such a way that the only way to build new construction or add wings to schools or do major renovations is through bonds. There's another way that you can do some maintenance that the district is considering, and it's a $27 million tax note. But the board seemed very surprised when the $27 million was allocated mostly to parking lots and roofs and air conditioning units, and the only new construction that we'll see as a community is some science labs in our high schools. So the community spoke loud and clear. They did not want that large bond, but there is going to have to be some really creative thinking to address the issue of our facilities.
Great. Tony, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Thank you. Working within the parameters of the maintenance tax bond, you can't do a new build. It's got to be on the existing footprint. That's why we are transforming our science labs at our already existing campuses. That's the purpose of our maintenance tax note. The property tax increase is not something anybody wants. Nobody wants to pay higher taxes. What we need to do is get our representatives in our legislatures to actually pay attention and realize that you can't cookie cut everybody's budget. There are certain districts that have different needs entirely, and that's where they need to focus their attention.
Great. Next question deals with enrollment. School districts, like we've mentioned, are losing students to charter schools. What has McAllen done to address this drop in enrollment figures?
Not only charter schools, but parochial schools to homeschooling in itself. And it's not just McAllen. It is across the board, across the state. We are now getting options. And a lot of the parents are taking advantage of the options. Some of our parents here think, you know what, they're producing great results because they're told that one phrase that everyone attends college. But in true fashion, not everyone is prepared for college. So what we need to do is step up our game and get our message out. Let our message be told that McAllen ISD has received the Post-Secondary Readiness Award for the last 2 years. That means that when your child graduates from McAllen ISD, they're going to be 1, prepared for higher education, 2, prepared to enter the workforce, or 3, be prepared to join the military or become an active member of the community. So that is one key component that a lot of people need to take into consideration, and we have to own our message. We have 31 incredible schools in McAllen ISD that produce students that are ready for college, that produce students that are ready to join the workforce, that produce students that are ready to join the armed forces. That is the message we need to get out, and we need to make it loud and clear. From there, we need to work forward to growing the enrollment. Once you have success, those students will start coming back. Over the last year, we've seen close to a double out-of-district student transfers in. Last year, we had 600. Up to this year, we're just under 1,100 out-of-district students that transfer in. McAllen is landlocked, 34 by 36 miles. There's really nothing you can do to go outside of that landlock. So what we're doing is becoming more efficient in the way that we're working with our programs. We're offering a greater program, our CTE programs, our International Baccalaureate programs. We're all making better use of that in order to help grow that enrollment back.
Great. Gina, you have a 30-second
Sure.
rebuttal.
So your question was mostly about charters, but I went to Region 1, and they have really solid data that tells us where our students are going. And our students are not just going to the charter schools, but they are also going by the hundreds to PSJA, to Edinburgh, Vanguard, which is also charter, South Texas ISD. They're staying in the area, but they're choosing other districts. And so we have to look within. It doesn't matter if we've gotten kids in if our net loss is somewhere around 2,500 students. We have to come up with more innovative programs to compete with our neighboring districts.
And that's kind of my next question for you. Aside from marketing, what can a district do to retain and attract new students?
I served as the chairperson for the McAllen Education Foundation Innovative Teaching Grants last summer, and I got to read the incredible submissions by our own teachers of things they want to do in our school district. So I feel like we can dig within to ask the teachers who were there in our classrooms and have these great ideas to develop those. I went and I had a very long meeting with the Harlingen superintendent the other day because I heard that he has a program called Design Teams, and they take ideas that most of the time come from their teachers, and they pull together community members, experts in the field and whatever it is they're exploring, teachers, principals, and they put together these committees and they explore them fully. They look out of our region, they look out of our state to see what the best practices are. And then when a plan is fully developed, they implement it. I think it's going to take a lot of work to make McAllen ISD the most innovative district in our region so that we're attracting students rather than losing students to other districts.
Tony, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
That's a perfect example of what we've done with our chess program. We had a teacher that was very anxious and wanting to teach her students chess. That classroom, that program started, and now we have national chess champions here at McAllen ISD. We've implemented that plan already.
Great. This is our last round of questions. This is for you. CTE, Career and Technical Education. That's a big buzzword right now.
Yes, ma'am.
For school districts across the state. Excuse me. How would you describe this type of education, and what is McAllen doing to prepare students who may not want to attend a traditional four-year college?
You know, the perfect example was given yesterday on Good Morning America, where they had Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. He's got his program, Mike Rowe Works, in which they talk about these jobs that we're missing millions of employees for, whether it be welding, whether it be agriculture, whether it be phlebotomists, whether it be ambulance drivers, forklift operators. These are quite a few jobs that are in demand, but people aren't wanting to take. If we can prepare our students and have them work into those fields, as we have with welding now. We have a forklift operating class, not only for the students, but for their parents as well. Cake decorating, sewing classes. Obviously, our ag farm at McAllen ISD is very strong. These are all programs that we need to learn to work together. We've developed a great program in which we are going to have actual phlebotomists and emergency assistants that are going to be there as paramedics. That is a program that is initiating in the coming year. So we're looking forward to the growth and development of our career technology education program, and of course, maintaining the success that we've had already.
Gina, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
So we have some incredibly strong leaders in our CTE department, but unfortunately facilities interferes with some of the programs that we can offer. From my understanding back when I did the facilities review, just one example, the welding instructor told me that about 75 to 100 students apply for the program for 24 slots. So we have the programs, but we just don't have the capacity. So I think that that's a huge area where we can improve. And Lincoln is underutilized right now, and so perhaps we could use that space to further grow our programs.
All right. And our last question is kind of tied into that. What are some of the weaknesses in the CTE area, and how can McAllen improve?
I just think offering more variety, looking to see what the job market is calling for at this time, and how we can improve the opportunities for our kids to be able to graduate with license and certifications. I really don't think that every kid is going to go to college. However, we need to make sure they're prepared to go to college should that be their decision. With our demographic, sometimes making sure that they graduate with a useful skill to be able to go in the job market will eventually lead to college or some kind of a community associate's degree. So I do think that that is an area that McAllen ISD has to improve, because from my understanding, talking to families who have left to PSJA, it's because they are offering programs that we don't offer, and I don't like to hear that as a McAllen graduate and McAllen community member. I want our school district to be able to provide every educational opportunity that our children need.
Tony, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
We've partnered up with the McAllen Chamber of Commerce. We've done our studies in which we have protected job growth for the next 20 years. We formed an apprenticeship program with the McAllen Chamber of Commerce in which we are getting our students hands-on to job training while they're still in high school. Our programs, is space an issue? It is. but we're working to resolve that issue.
Okay, great. We will finish up by doing 1 minute closing remarks, and since we started with Gina, we'll start with Tony this time.
I appreciate that. I just want to ask the voters of McAllen to remember the successes that we've had over the last 4 years. With the first financial integral rating systems, we've been tops 100% for the last 12 years. We've managed to transform the schools in which we were told there was no other way through the creative marketing, through uses of the TRE and the maintenance tax bond that we're looking for, and of course, growing our student population. We've been projected to lose 2% of our students over the last decade, and we're in the process of turning that around through our career technology education programs, through our fine arts programs, and through our athletic programs. Overall, we want to make sure that the child gets the best education they can at McAllen ISD that has set the gold standard for the Rio Grande Valley.
All right, and Gina, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Okay, thank you so much. If you want McAllen ISD to be the best in the region for academics, for career technology, fine arts, and athletics, and you think that McAllen ISD should be attracting kids from all over the valley to come to our programs, then I think you should vote for me, because that is what I'm going to work extremely hard to do, to bring the innovative programs that will bring our families back to our schools. If you are content with the status quo, and you are content with our children choosing other districts, and millions of dollars going to other districts instead of staying right here in our McAllen schools, and you do not put any of the blame on our current school board for the declining enrollment, then perhaps Mr. Forina is your guy. But I can promise you that I'm going to work extremely hard every day to make sure that every McAllen child has every educational opportunity that they need. Thank you.
All right. Well, we want to thank both of you for joining us today. It's very important for our community to hear from both of you. And we do want to remind our audience that you can catch this in its entirety at themonitor.com. And again, thank you to our sponsor, IBC Bank. And thank you again for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noxie.
All right, thank you, and have a good one.
IBC Bank believes in doing more for local communities. Every year, IBC Bank gives back by investing in countless worthwhile endeavors. IBC Bank invests in our youngest community members by presenting Minitropolis, a school program that teaches students leadership and the importance of responsibility. From supporting local nonprofit organizations to helping present school programs, IBC Bank is devoted to making a positive impact in people's lives and contributing to the prosperity of future generations.
This has been a truly exciting year at IBC Bank. Having challenged ourselves to become the community bank of choice that dominates and delivers on the expectation of leadership. And boy, have we delivered.
IBC Bank offers free checking accounts, is open 7 days a week, even on Sunday. With IBC Bank takes pride in organizing events that bring together our community leadership. Outings such as Empresarios and RGV Women with Purpose provide a vital opportunity for business owners and community leaders to unite. Together, we explore and educate the public and business community on events and changes that affect our economy. United we stand, and IBC Bank stands with you to help ensure the continued growth and prosperity of our local communities.